You don't forget the exact moment your marriage starts to come undone. For me, it was a Tuesday night. The kind of night that should have ended with a glass of wine, some mindless TV, maybe a lazy hand resting on my thigh while we sank into the couch together. Instead, Lena looked at me over the rim of her red wine glass, eyes distant and too calm for what she was about to say. "I've been thinking about something," she started, which already sent a small flicker of dread crawling up my spine. She had that tone, not angry, not apologetic, just rehearsed, calculated. I set down the remote and faced her, trying not to show how tightly I was gripping the armrest. I remember the soft hum of the dishwasher in the background, the flickering candle she insisted on lighting for ambience, and the fact that she wore lipstick even though we hadn't gone out all day. I want to open the marriage. There it was. No build-up, no explanation. Just a bomb dropped into the middle of our dimly lit living room. For a few seconds, I actually thought she meant it in a metaphorical sense. Like, emotionally. Let's open up more. Let's travel. Let's try new hobbies. But the look in her eyes said something else entirely. She meant sex. She meant other people. My mouth went dry. What? Lena swirled her wine, as if she'd said something as mundane as suggesting we repaint the kitchen. Just explore. Experience new energy. I still love you. But I think we've been in a rut. This could be good for us. New energy. That's the phrase she used. As if fucking someone else was a kind of spiritual detox. I didn't answer right away. My brain started rifling through memories like a Rolodex. Our wedding day in Santa Barbara, her body curled into mine during thunderstorms, that camping trip where we made love under the stars like teenagers. All of it, real. All of it, now at risk. "You've already met someone," I said quietly. Her lips parted like she might deny it, but then she just gave me a look. Not guilt, not pride, just acknowledgement. "Not exactly," she said, "but I've had offers. And I've been curious. So have you, I'm sure." I hadn't. Not even a little. I didn't say that, though. Instead, I gave a stiff nod and walked to the kitchen. My fingers trembled as I pulled down a glass and filled it with whiskey. I didn't drink whiskey on weekdays. But that night, the rules didn't matter anymore. "You think this will fix us?" I asked, turning to face her. She hadn't moved. Still cross-legged on the couch, still in that slinky black tank top I used to peel off her like wrapping paper. "Or do you just want out without actually saying it?" "I don't want out." Her voice was too steady. "I want more. We can set boundaries. Rules. Total honesty." I laughed then. Not because it was funny, but because the absurdity had finally cracked through the numbness. Total honesty, right? "So, if I go out tomorrow and fuck someone else, you'll be fine." She hesitated. That was the first time I saw the crack in her armor. "If that's what you need," she said. But her voice had dropped, and I noticed how tightly she gripped her wine stem. I wanted to scream, to tell her this was a betrayal masked as liberation. But I didn't. Because something inside me, a darker, quieter voice, was already wondering what it would feel like to say yes. To stop fighting for a version of us that no longer existed. To lean into the storm instead of bracing against it. So I said the words that would change everything. "Fine. You want an open marriage? You got it." She blinked, surprised. Maybe she thought I'd beg her not to. Maybe she expected tears. Instead, I finished my drink, set the glass down, and walked upstairs. I didn't even look back. But that night, in the dark silence of our bedroom, I stared at the ceiling and realized two things. 1. I didn't know who Lena was anymore. 2. I didn't know who I was either, but I was about to find out. And maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't hate what I became. 3 weeks passed. 3 slow-burning weeks since Lena made her proposal. We didn't talk about it much. We didn't need to. It was in the way she started going to bed later, the way she dressed a little differently, tight jeans, cropped sweaters, perfume she never wore for me. She was becoming something else. Or maybe just showing me who she really was. And me? I buried myself in work like a man trying to outrun an avalanche. Marketing pitches, data reviews, performance sheets, I tore through them like they were life rafts. That's when Victoria started noticing. Victoria Morales, my boss. Early 40s, assertive, brilliant, and the kind of woman who filled a room without saying a word. She had this way of walking that turned heads, hips purposeful, chin high, heels clicking like punctuation. I'd worked under her for 3 years and always kept things strictly professional, though I'd be lying if I said I hadn't noticed her. Everyone noticed Victoria. But she never crossed a line. Until that night. We were finishing a last-minute presentation for a pitch with a biotech firm. The office was almost empty, the kind of silence that makes fluorescent lights buzz louder. I was staring at my laptop when I realized she was watching me, not in the way a boss watches an employee, but with an almost amused tilt to her lips. "You've been off," she said. "You used to joke in meetings. You had that awful desk plant you watered like it was your child. Now you just grind." I chuckled without looking up. Deadlines don't flirt back. Easier that way. That made her raise an eyebrow. "You always talk in riddles after 8 p.m.? I sighed and leaned back. I don't know what compelled me, but the words just tumbled out. "My wife wanted to open our marriage." Victoria blinked slowly. "That's not the kind of sentence you expect during a pitch deck review." "Yeah," I said, rubbing my temple. "She thinks we need to explore new energy. Whatever the hell that means." "She's already exploring, I take it?" "Most likely." Victoria stood and walked to the bar cart in the corner of her office. She poured 2 fingers of scotch into a low-ball glass, then held it up. "You want one?" I hesitated. "Isn't this the part where HR crashes through the door?" She smirked. "HR clocked out 3 hours ago. Besides, you look like you need this more than I do." I joined her by the windows, where the skyline glowed like static electricity. She handed me the drink, her fingers brushing mine, brief but intentional. There was a pause, and something passed between us. A flicker. A possibility. "Do you want to open your marriage?" she asked. Her voice was low, steady, like she already knew the answer. "No," I said, "but I'm starting to realize what I want doesn't matter much anymore." She sipped her scotch, then turned to face me, leaning her hip against the windowsill. Her blouse dipped just enough to draw my eye before I caught myself. But she noticed. Of course she noticed. "I've never been married," she said. "Never been the type. But I know a power shift when I see one. And what am I shifting into, exactly?" Her eyes met mine, sharp and unblinking. "Someone interesting." The room felt warmer. Her perfume, jasmine, and something darker hung in the air between us. My pulse was steady, but deep down, something stirred. Not guilt. Not yet. Just curiosity laced with heat. "Are we still talking about me?" I asked. That earned a smile. "We're always talking about you, Ryan. You just haven't noticed." I downed the rest of the scotch and set the glass down with a soft clink. "We should probably wrap this up," I said, though I didn't move. "We should," she agreed, not moving either. Her gaze dipped to my lips for the briefest second. Then she stepped back, like a queen retreating from the chessboard before making her next move. "Email me the final version by morning," she said, turning to her desk. "And Ryan, yeah, if your wife wanted freedom, you should give her what she asked for." That night, as I drove home past half-lit storefronts and silent intersections, her words echoed louder than Lena's ever had. Not because they were seductive, but because they were true. Freedom was no longer a gift Lena gave herself. It was a door, and I had just stepped through it. It started with subtle changes: Lena's late nights out, unexplained gym bags, a new necklace I hadn't bought. At first, I told myself it was harmless, just a phase. But deep down, I knew she'd taken the proposal and run with it. His name was Cole. I found out one Sunday afternoon when her phone buzzed next to the fruit bowl. She was upstairs, probably doing her yoga practice that had somehow become a solo thing lately. I didn't mean to snoop, but when I saw Coley fluttering and wind light up the screen with "still thinking about your thighs" around me, something primal twisted in my gut. There it was, confirmation. The freedom Lena craved now had a face, a name, and apparently a body that was currently enjoying what used to be mine. I didn't say anything right away. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of knowing she had gotten under my skin. Instead, I did what men are often taught to do. I swallowed it. I went for a jog. I grilled steaks that night. I even complimented her on her new perfume. But something had changed in me. I could feel it. That week, Victoria and I were working on a new campaign for a European client. Late hours, closed doors, a bottle of Barolo cracked open to celebrate progress. But that night, it wasn't about the project anymore. "You're quieter than usual," she said, crossing one leg over the other. Her black skirt rode up just enough to be noticed, but not so much that it looked deliberate. She had a gift for balance like that. Elegant danger. "Found out who my wife's sleeping with," I said flatly. "Younger guy. Works at a rock climbing gym. Probably doesn't wear socks." She tilted her head. And what did that feel like? Like I was just handed a script I didn't audition for. One where I'm supposed to play the understanding husband who nods and says, "Good for you, Lena. Find yourself." Victoria leaned in, resting her chin on her hand. "And are you going to play it?" I looked at her, hard. "I don't know who I am in this story anymore." She stood then smooth, deliberate, and walked around the desk until she was standing behind me. I felt her fingers on my shoulder, her nails just grazing the fabric of my shirt. She bent forward, lips close to my ear. "You could be anything, Ryan. You just have to stop asking for permission." The contact sent a bolt of heat down my spine. It wasn't love. It wasn't even lust, not entirely. It was recognition. I didn't realize how long it had been since someone touched me because they wanted to, not because it was expected or owed. I stood up. Slowly. Our faces were inches apart. "I'm still married," I said. "Open marriages have open doors," she replied, her voice like velvet wrapped around a dagger. I didn't kiss her that night, but we both knew I wanted to. And worse, I knew she wanted me to. Back at home, Lena was in the bathroom, hair damp from a shower she clearly hadn't taken alone. I watched her walk around the bedroom in a towel, checking her phone and smiling down at the screen. Probably Cole again. She noticed me watching and smiled faintly. "Long night?" "Yeah," I said, my voice low. "Lots of energy in the office." She gave a distracted nod and turned away, already drifting back into her own little world. I stared at her bare back, at the wet strands of hair trailing down her spine, at the woman who used to be my entire universe. And I felt nothing. No jealousy, no heartbreak. Just the echo of Victoria's breath against my ear, and the memory of her fingers dragging lightly across my skin. That night, I didn't touch Lena. I didn't even lay beside her. I slept on the couch, not because I was angry, but because I no longer felt compelled to pretend. The next morning, she didn't ask why, and I didn't offer an explanation. Later that week, Victoria brushed past me in the hallway. Her hand lingered on my arm, just a moment longer than necessary. "Still figuring out your role?" she asked without stopping. I didn't answer, but for the first time in weeks, I smiled. Because I wasn't playing a part anymore. I was getting ready to rewrite the damn script. The night of the annual company gala arrived like a slow burn I wasn't ready for, or maybe I was too ready. The invitation had sat on our kitchen counter for weeks, and Lena had made a show of hesitating. "Will Cole be there?" she'd asked, voice teasing. I laughed without humor. "Only if he plans on crashing a corporate event in hiking boots." She'd smirked and said, maybe he'd liven things up. Still, she came. She wore a deep red dress. Not crimson red. Blood red. It clung to her hips, plunged between her breasts, and caught the light with every movement. It was a weapon, and she knew it. I knew it too, but I said nothing. Just adjusted my tie and pretended not to see her slip her phone into her clutch like she was waiting for a text from someone not me. The venue was at the top of a luxury hotel downtown, glass walls overlooking the skyline, the kind of place where champagne flowed before introductions. Lena was radiant, and she knew how to own a room. But she wasn't the only one. Victoria arrived fashionably late. She wore black, sleek, backless, with just enough shimmer to catch the eye and never let it go. Her hair was pinned up, revealing the elegant line of her neck and collarbone. She didn't just walk in, she arrived. And Lena noticed. Victoria made her way straight to me, bypassing department heads and executives. Her eyes found mine across the crowd, and for a second, I forgot how to stand. She reached me with a glass of champagne in hand, then glanced at Lena with a polite but clinical smile. "You must be the famous Lena," she said, extending her hand. "I've heard so much." Lena took it, eyes narrowing slightly. "All good things, I hope." "Oh, I don't traffic in anything else," Victoria replied, then turned to me with a slow smile. "Ryan, you clean up nicely. That suit does dangerous things to you." Lena raised an eyebrow. I took a sip of champagne. The evening blurred into music, speeches, fake laughs, and thinly veiled power moves. Lena stuck to my arm at first, clearly claiming her territory. But eventually, she began to drift, mingling, flirting, laughing a little too hard at some junior manager's joke. I watched her sip martinis and lean just a bit too close to a man with a beard and a Rolex. Cole wasn't here, but his spirit was alive and well. Victoria appeared beside me again. She always seemed to know when to appear, when to lean in and whisper just the right thing. "She's trying to make you jealous," she said over the rim of her wine glass. "It's not working," I said, eyes fixed across the room. "No," she murmured, "because you've already moved on. You just haven't admitted it to yourself yet." Her fingers brushed my wrist, light as breath. It wasn't overt. It was intentional. Then she leaned in, her lips almost grazing my ear. "You know she picked the wrong night to bring her little drama here. Because you, Ryan, are about to become very interesting." I turned to face her fully. There was something in her eyes, something feral, unshakable. She wasn't flirting anymore. She was hunting. "Come with me," she said softly. I hesitated. "No." She smiled. "Just for a moment." We slipped through a side corridor, away from the music and polished speeches. She led me to a private balcony overlooking the city. The cool night air kissed my face, but her hand remained on my wrist. And then she leaned into me. The kiss wasn't soft. It wasn't sweet. It was possession, plain and raw. Lips parted. Tongues met. Her nails grazed my jaw, her body flush against mine, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like a man enduring something. I felt wanted. Claimed. When she finally pulled away, her breath was hot against my lips. "You taste better than I thought," she whispered. "That's rare." I stood there, stunned not by the kiss, but by how much I wanted more. Every cell in my body had woken up. The bitter taste of Lena's betrayal? It was still there, but now it was fading, being replaced with something else. Control. When we returned to the party, Lena was laughing too loudly. Her smile faltered when she saw me, lipstick slightly smudged. My tie loosened just a bit. Her eyes narrowed. And then she saw it. The smear of red at the corner of my mouth. Victoria's lipstick. She recognized the shade. She blinked, stiffened, but said nothing. I walked past her. Didn't stop. Didn't look back. Victoria's gaze met mine from across the room, and she raised her glass ever so slightly, like a queen acknowledging her knight. And in that moment, Lena wasn't holding the reins anymore. I was. The morning after the party, Lena was quiet. She made coffee like nothing happened, humming some indie songs she used to play on road trips. But I noticed how her eyes kept darting to me, looking for a sign, a tell. I gave her nothing. She didn't ask about the lipstick. She didn't need to. Her silence said everything, and so did mine. Later that day, Victoria called me into her office. Nothing unusual about that, except this time she didn't bother sitting behind her desk. She was perched on the edge of it, arms folded, eyes roaming the length of me like she was already undressing me in her mind. "We should talk," she said, voice velvet smooth. "About the party?" Her lips curled. "About what happened after the party." I closed the door behind me slowly. Something about the way she looked at me made my pulse quicken. I wasn't nervous, though. Not anymore. That kiss had rewired something in me. She knew it. I knew it. "I don't regret it," I said. "Good," she replied, uncrossing her legs and walking toward me. "Because I don't do regret. I do decisions. Consequences. Rewards." She was standing in front of me now, close enough to feel the heat off her skin. She reached up and straightened my tie. "You feel it, don't you?" she whispered. "That shift. You're not waiting around anymore. You're not asking her what she wants. You're deciding what you want." She tugged the tie a little tighter. "Do you want me, Ryan?" I didn't answer. I just stepped forward, pressing her back gently against the edge of the desk, my hand tracing the line of her thigh beneath its skirt. Her breath hitched, subtle, restrained. But her body didn't lie. When I kissed her this time, it wasn't about vengeance or bitterness. It was hunger, dominance. She responded like she'd been waiting, burning for me to take control. Her mouth opened for mine, hands gripping my shirt, pulling me deeper. The air in her office was thick with tension, every second teetering between professional boundaries and utter collapse. But then she stopped, just like that. Her palms pressed to my chest, firm but not forceful. She held my eyes. "Not yet," she whispered. "I like the build-up. And I'm not here to replace your wife, Ryan. I'm here to awaken something in you. Unchain it." She pulled away, adjusting her skirt, her lipstick slightly smudged again. I was breathless, alive, and hungry for more. Back home, Lena was on the couch, legs tucked under her, pretending to read a book. She looked up when I walked in and squinted like she couldn't quite place the man standing in front of her. "You didn't text today," she said. "I was busy," I replied. She stood, walked toward me slowly, the same way she used to when we first started dating, except now it was measured, uncertain. "So, about last night," she began. Who was she? I met her eyes, unflinching. "You don't get to ask that." Her breath caught. "What happened to honesty?" she asked. "We agreed." "No," I said. "You made an agreement. I just didn't stop you." She blinked, stunned. I could see the cracks forming behind her eyes. The truth was setting in. This wasn't just an open marriage anymore. This was a power shift. That night, I didn't sleep in the bedroom. I didn't explain myself. And when Lena came down around midnight in a silk robe she hadn't worn in years, I simply looked at her and said, "Don't." She froze in the doorway. "This isn't a game you can win anymore," I said, voice calm. You asked for freedom. Don't panic now that I've found mine. She didn't say anything, just turned and walked upstairs, alone. Back at the office the next morning, Victoria was waiting in the break room. Her lips curled as I poured coffee beside her. "Good evening?" she asked. I didn't answer, just smiled. She leaned in, her voice low. "Come by my lounge after hours." "You have a lounge now?" She winked. Executive privilege. That night, I knocked once on the frosted glass door marked private. She opened it already barefoot, hair down, blouse unbuttoned just enough to say, "This is mine now." The door clicked shut behind me, and I didn't look back. The next morning, Lena was waiting at the kitchen table. Hair tied up, no makeup, just a t-shirt of mine she hadn't worn in over a year. A peace offering, or an act of war in disguise, I couldn't tell yet. "You didn't come home last night," she said, not looking up from her coffee. "I did," I replied calmly, grabbing a glass from the cabinet. "You were asleep." She hesitated. "Where were you?" There it was, the jealousy she never anticipated feeling. The hypocrisy beginning to boil beneath her carefully rehearsed calm. I could feel it crawling under her skin. "Office lounge," I said, pouring water. "Working late." "Alone." I turned, locking eyes with her. I didn't flinch. No. The silence hit like a body blow. She blinked, eyes searching for a sign that I was joking. I wasn't. "Who?" she finally asked, voice tight. "You really want to know?" I asked. She didn't respond, but I knew the answer. It was Victoria. Her lips parted just slightly. Shock, or hurt, or rage. I didn't care. Not anymore. "She's your boss," she said, her voice rising just enough to reveal the storm brewing inside. "Not at that moment," I replied. "You're seriously sleeping with your boss?" she asked, disbelief coloring her tone. "After everything we talked about?" "You wanted openness," I said, stepping closer. "You begged for new energy. This is mine. You're punishing me." "No, Lena. I'm evolving. Maybe you should try it." Her jaw clenched, and for a moment I thought she might throw her mug at me. But she didn't. She just turned and left, her bare feet slapping against the hardwood like little aftershocks. I didn't follow her. Instead, I went to work, and Victoria was waiting. The private executive lounge wasn't on any office map. No one talked about it, but everyone knew it existed. An urban legend among assistants and interns. It was a space built for indulgence. Low lighting, deep leather couches, a stocked minibar, a velvet chaise in the corner. No windows, no clocks. Victoria opened the door for me herself. She wasn't dressed like a boss today. She was dressed like mine. She wore a navy silk blouse, unbuttoned just enough to show the curve of her breasts, and black slacks that hugged her hips like they were tailored for temptation. She pulled me inside without a word and locked the door. And then it happened. Without preamble, without negotiation. Her hands were in my hair. Mine gripped her hips. The kiss was different this time. Not exploration, possession. She pushed me against the wall, lips moving against mine with a hunger that felt dangerous. I lifted her onto the desk without thinking, her thighs wrapping around me, pulling me tighter. Her voice broke the heat just long enough to whisper, "Tell me who's in charge now." I didn't hesitate. "You are." She smiled against my mouth. "Good. We didn't make love. We didn't fuck. We collided. Skin to skin, heartbeat to heartbeat, in a space where time ceased to exist." She undressed like a queen shedding armor, graceful, ruthless. And I devoured her like a man who'd been starving for far too long. Her body was fire and steel, soft where I needed softness, sharp where I craved pain. She bit my shoulder, whispered filth into my ear, used me like I'd been aching to be used. And I let her. No, I wanted her to. When it was over, I didn't feel guilt. I felt clarity. Victoria lay back against the couch, naked beneath a silk throw, sipping water like she hadn't just rewritten the definition of dominance. Her eyes traced mine. "I don't do this often," she said. I nodded, breath still shallow. "Me neither." "Lena's still in your life," she said flatly. "But you're no longer hers." She was right. Back home, Lena barely looked at me that night. She didn't ask questions. But I saw the cracks forming deeper, jealousy, confusion, even fear. She wasn't the one pulling the strings anymore. She had opened Pandora's box, and now she was afraid of what had come out. And me? I was no longer the man begging for affection. I wasn't waiting for permission. I had crossed the line, and I wasn't going back. Lena's first shot across the bow came in the form of a photo. It popped up on my phone midday, a picture of her in a low-cut bikini, arms draped around Cole's neck as they posed in front of some infinity pool I didn't recognize. She looked back at the camera over her shoulder, her lips slightly parted. The caption underneath was one word: freedom. I stared at it for a long moment, then locked my phone without replying. Victoria walked past my desk just then. She didn't even glance at the phone, but she paused, leaned down, and whispered into my ear. She's trying to remind you she still matters. Let her try. And that was that. Over the next week, Lena escalated. She started dressing like she had something to prove: tight skirts, plunging necklines, and heels I hadn't seen in years. She took selfies in our bedroom mirror and posted them with captions like, "Feeling alive again." One day I came home and found a trail of her lingerie leading upstairs like some adolescent fantasy. But when I got to the bedroom, it was empty, just a fresh scent in the air, and her wedding ring sitting on the nightstand like a dare. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was desperate. She wanted to play games? She forgot I had stopped playing the moment I started winning. Victoria sharpened me like a blade. She made suggestions about my wardrobe, told me which watches projected authority, which colognes left a memory in a room. I started wearing tailored shirts, better shoes. My posture changed. I didn't walk anymore. I moved like I belonged. And people noticed. The receptionist started smiling longer. Men shook my hand with firmer grips. And Lena? Lena watched the transformation like a woman watching her reflection morph into someone else's face. One night, I came home late, still wearing the scent of Victoria's perfume on my collar. Lena was curled up on the couch with a wine glass in hand. She looked at me. I slightly glazed. "You seeing her?" she asked. I didn't even pretend not to know who she meant. "I am." Her jaw clenched, but she masked it with a sip. "Is it serious?" I tilted my head. "Define serious." "You know what I mean." "She challenges me," I said simply. "She doesn't ask for half of me and pretend that's enough. She's using you." I smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe she just knows how to value something when it walks into her life." Lena set the wine glass down hard enough that it cracked slightly. "So that's it?" she asked, voice shaky. "You just, what? Found someone else and stopped caring?" "No," I said. "I found myself. You just weren't part of the equation anymore." I turned and walked upstairs. She didn't follow. 2 days later, she posted a photo of her and Cole kissing in front of our favorite brunch spot, the one we used to go to every anniversary. This time, I didn't ignore it. I reposted it to my story with the caption, "Best decision she ever made." Now I can finally breathe. Victoria laughed when I told her. "You're dangerous now," she said, circling me in her office like a lioness admiring her prey. And that's exactly what I want. She pulled me into her again, this time on the office couch. Lena had wanted a man who'd stay passive, who'd let her explore and wait quietly for the dust to settle. But the man she unleashed? He didn't wait. He took. And for once in my life, I realized being wanted is nothing compared to being missed. And Lena? She was already starting to feel the weight of everything slipping out of her hands. Victoria summoned me to her office mid-morning with a one-word message: "Come." I just finished a client call when I saw it. The simplicity of the word sent a spark through me. She didn't request. She didn't ask. She commanded. I knocked once before stepping in. She was seated at her desk in a sharp black blazer and nothing underneath, bare skin peeking from the folds just enough to stop time. Her hair was pinned up, her lipstick a shade darker than usual. A manila folder lay on her desk, but her eyes were on me. "Shut the door," she said. I obeyed. She slid the folder toward me with one manicured finger. "There's a position opening up, Director of Brand Strategy. Reports directly to me. Comes with a corner office, 40% raise, and a lot more discretion." I blinked. "That position's not even public yet." "It isn't," she said. "But I make the calls around here. And you've proven yourself, both professionally and personally." I stared at her, unsure if this was part of the game or something else entirely. "You said you don't date employees," I reminded her. "I don't," she said. "But I reward the ones who matter." She stood slowly and walked around the desk until she was in front of me. She took my tie in hand, smoothing it like it was part of me. Then she met my gaze. "This is chess, Ryan, not poker. You don't bluff your way through life. You move with strategy. You don't wait for opportunity, you become it." "And what's the price?" I asked. "Loyalty," she said. "Presence. A willingness to be owned, but only by someone who knows how to handle you." She kissed me then, soft at first, then deep, firm, possessive. She broke it off before I could sink all the way in. Say yes, she whispered, and I'll make you unstoppable. I didn't answer immediately, but I didn't walk away either. Later that night, Lena tried again. I came home to candlelight, soft music playing through the house. She was wearing the silk dress I bought her years ago, the one she'd stuffed to the back of the closet after growing out of that phase. Dinner was on the table. Steak, roasted vegetables, red wine breathing in a decanter. She smiled. I thought maybe we could talk. I sat. Not because I wanted to reconnect, but because I wanted to see how far she was willing to fall now that the power was gone. This looks nice, I said. I miss this, she whispered. This. Us. I tilted my head. You miss the version of me that didn't know better. He's gone. Tears welled in her eyes, but she pushed through them. I just got caught up in it all, she said. I wanted to feel alive. I didn't think I'd lose you in the process. But you didn't lose me, I said softly. You let go. You opened your hand, and I flew. You're not in love with her, she tried. No, I replied. But I'm in love with who I am around her. She stared at me, lips trembling. You've changed. I grew. You're still standing in the ruins trying to build a house with broken glass. Her fork dropped onto the plate. So that's it. It's over. It's been over, I said, standing. You just didn't notice because you were too busy dancing in your freedom. She didn't try to stop me when I left the table. Meanwhile, Cole had started to crack. He wasn't built for long-term anything. Lena's insecurities made her clingier, and Cole? Cole didn't do complicated. I overheard her crying on a call one night. Something about how he hadn't texted back in 3 days. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. At the office, Victoria and I met in private more often. Strategy sessions. Review meetings. Her eyes lingered longer. My hand brushed hers deliberately. She never said the word relationship. She didn't have to. She was giving me power, elevating me, sculpting me, and I was letting her. That Friday, she called me in again. This time, she handed me a key. To the condo, she said. Downtown. Minimalist, clean. Your name's on the lease. I stared at it. You're moving me out? I'm giving you the space to become what you're meant to be, she said. Lena was chapter 1. I'm the rest of the book. I ran my thumb over the key. It felt heavier than it should have. That night, I packed a bag. Lena watched me from the hallway. You're really doing this? I already did. She didn't cry. She just folded her arms, like she was trying to remember how to protect herself again. Victoria wins, she said. I looked at her one last time. No, I replied. I do. The condo Victoria picked was downtown, sleek and understated. Floor-to-ceiling windows, chrome fixtures, and a view of the skyline that made the city feel like mine. She didn't ask if I liked it. She just handed me the keys, walked in ahead of me, and said, Welcome home. That first night, I stood in the glass shower and let the hot water pound against my back until the steam fogged up the mirrors. No framed wedding photos here. No scent of Lena's lotions. Just silence and space to finally hear myself think. I didn't realize how long I'd been holding my breath in that marriage until I could finally exhale. Victoria came by the next evening, dressed in one of my button-downs, no bra underneath, and black lace panties that left little to the imagination. She didn't knock. She let herself in and found me on the balcony, sipping bourbon and watching the city bleed into night. She slid her arms around me from behind, pressing her body to mine. You look good here, she said. Untethered. I turned to face her, my hand resting just above the swell of her hip. I feel different. You are, she whispered, then kissed me slow, deliberate, as if sealing something permanent. That night, we didn't rush. There was no office urgency, no stolen moment. It was deliberate, intense. Every movement was calculated. She sat astride me on the couch, took her time unbuttoning my shirt like she was peeling back the last layers of the old me. When she slid down onto me, her eyes never left mine. She didn't moan, she commanded pleasure, forced me to feel every inch of her. And I surrendered to it. Afterward, she laid her head on my chest. Do you want her to know? She asked. That you're mine now? She already knows, I said. And I was right. The next evening, Lena showed up. I heard the knock before I saw her through the peephole. Her eyes were puffy. Her hair pulled up hastily. She wore an old hoodie of mine and no makeup. Just rawness. I opened the door halfway. She stared at me like I was someone she barely recognized. You moved out, she said, voice brittle. I did. I didn't think you'd actually leave. I didn't think you'd fuck your yoga instructor either, I said evenly. She flinched. I made a mistake. No, Lena, you made a choice. And now you don't like where it led. Her voice trembled. I miss you. Before I could respond, a soft voice floated in from behind me. Ryan, do you want me to put the wine on ice or bring it out now? Victoria. Barefoot, and nothing but my dress shirt and a smile. Lena's face collapsed. She took a step back like she'd been hit. She's here. I nodded. She's in your clothes. I didn't say anything. Lena blinked, stunned. You're really choosing her? Victoria appeared beside me then, looping her arm around my waist. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Lena's lip quivered. I was your wife. And now you're not, I said. She backed up another step, then stopped, as if bracing herself. If you walk away now, that's it. There's no coming back. I looked her dead in the eye. I know. She turned and walked away without another word. The door clicked shut. Silence wrapped around the condo like velvet. Victoria turned to me, still breathing, more than ever. She nodded, then handed me a glass of wine. That, she said, lifting hers in a toast, was a woman realizing the man she thought she could control doesn't belong to her anymore. And who does he belong to? I asked. Victoria met my gaze over the rim of her glass. To himself. But if he's smart, he'll choose a queen who knows how to rule with him. I set my glass down and pulled her close. I already have. We kissed again, deeper this time. Not fueled by revenge. Not born of survival. But from something new. Power. Purpose. Clarity. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was directing. And for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't afraid of being alone. Because I wasn't. And I wasn't hers anymore. Divorce, it turns out, isn't about screaming matches or shattered picture frames, not when you've already let go. Ours moved like a whisper. Cool. Surgical. She cried in the lawyer's office once. I didn't. I signed every document without hesitation, and when I slid the final paper across the table, Lena hesitated like she was waiting for me to change my mind. But I didn't. She signed too, a hand shaking slightly, and it was done. No ceremony. No closure speech. Just a name erased from my life like chalk and rain. I left the building lighter than I'd felt in years. 2 days later, Victoria called me into her office again. Not the private lounge. Not the balcony where we kissed in secret. Her real office, glass walls, expensive art, views that said power in every square inch. She stood when I walked in, closed the blinds herself, then handed me a leather portfolio. Inside was a contract. Not just for a promotion. For partnership. Executive partner. Brand strategy, it read. With my name already printed. I looked up at her. You're serious. I don't play games, she said. At least not with people who've earned a seat at my table. And the others? There's still pieces on the board, she said with a smile. I sat across from her. Slowly, the contract still in my hands. This is a hell of a leap, I said. No, she said, leaning forward. It's the reward for one. She reached into her desk and pulled out a second document, less formal, more personal. It was a letter, handwritten. You'll need to read this too, she said. It was from Lena. I recognized the looping handwriting instantly. The paper smelled faintly of her perfume, like a ghost trying to haunt me. Ryan. I don't know what I thought I was doing. Maybe I was trying to provoke you. Maybe I wanted to feel powerful again. But somewhere along the way, I forgot who you were. Or maybe I never really knew. You weren't weak. You were loyal. You weren't boring. You were stable. I thought freedom would make me feel whole. But it only exposed what I lacked. I lost you. I see that now. And I don't blame you for not looking back. But I need you to know, no one has ever made me feel safer, more desired, more real than you did when you loved me. I'll always carry that. Lena. I folded the letter carefully. Set it on the edge of Victoria's desk. She watched me in silence. That closure you needed? She asked. I nodded. Yeah, but it's not mine to carry anymore. I signed the partnership contract. Victoria stood and walked around the desk, heels slow, deliberate. She took the pen from me, set it down, and then traced her fingers along my collarbone. There's one more thing, she said. She held out another sheet, thicker paper, custom letterhead. A partnership agreement. Not corporate. Personal. I'm not looking for monogamy, she said. I'm looking for loyalty. For someone who doesn't flinch under pressure. Who doesn't bow to chaos. Is this your way of asking me to commit? It's my way of asking if you want more, she said. Not just sex. Not just power. Us. I stepped forward, pulled her close, and whispered against her lips, I'm yours. Not owned. Not controlled. Chosen. We celebrated that night. Not just the contract. Not just our wins. But everything we'd become. Later, as I stood naked at the floor-to-ceiling window, her body tangled with mine under the sheets. I saw the reflection of the man I used to be and the man I was now. Confident, desired, respected. Not because someone gave me permission, but because I took the damn wheel. Somewhere across the city, I imagine Lena scrolling through my social media feed. Photos of me and Victoria at a company gala, my hand on her lower back, her lips brushing my jaw. No bitterness, no revenge, just a front row seat to the life she walked away from. Let her watch. Let her wonder how I became everything she said she wanted only after she left. Because now I wasn't someone's second choice. I was the man they fought to keep. And I had already been claimed by a woman who saw everything in me and wasn't afraid to own it.